Hi everyone. Just when you think the BBC can't get any worse with their BS propaganda, especially around Brexit, just when you think they can't stoop to any lower level of obvious BS, I give you the headline on their on their website from yesterday. Brexit threat to sandwiches. My head hurts. Honestly, it hurts. The article says this. Sandwiches would be one of the first victims of a breakdown in the food supply chain in the event of a disorderly no-deal Brexit, according to a senior grocery executive. So a senior grocery executive said this. Quote, if you look at the ingredients, a bit of lettuce, tomato, maybe avocado, chicken with a bit of mayonnaise, all prepared fresh and kept chilled, sandwiches would be some of the most vulnerable products if food supply chains were interrupted. End quote. Senior grocery executive. Where's the name, BBC? Who said that? Was it, a shelf stacker down my local Tesco's? Because, hey, if he's chief shelf stacker, he would be a senior grocery executive. You could call him that. In the same way you could call a hairdresser a coiffeur stylist. The propaganda is off the charts with this. Continues, the space between two pieces of bread is perhaps unlikely new territory for Brexit contingency planning, but it reflects an area of serious concern that government ministers have been quizzed over this week. So it's not the serious concern from the government ministers, it's the serious concern from the propaganda machine that is the BBC. And outlets like it. Although they have said they hope and expect a deal to be done, no they don't. No they don't. I'll come to that in a minute. They are making emergency preparations for the potential interruption to vital supplies like fresh food now that they have said planning for a, quote, no deal is being stepped up. Responses from Brexit Secretary Dominic Raab have been slightly evasive on the issue. When asked by MPs whether the government was stockpiling food, he said, it would be wrong to describe it as the government doing stockpiling, but we will look at this issue in the round and make sure that there is an adequate food supply, as they should do. This has led to images being conjured of massive warehouses being filled with emergency rations to see the nation feel as if it's on war footing. Really? Who's supplying those images, BBC? Are you supplying those images by putting those images in the head with BS propaganda articles like this? Food retailers are understandably reluctant to talk openly about empty shelves, but this is what I've learned. Really? Who wrote this shit? Simon Jack. Simon, you know jack shit. That's what you know. That's what you've learned. Jack shit. First, every major food retailer I've spoken to is quite clear they have not been approached by the government to start redirecting any food. So what? I can't read any more of this bullshit. I can't read any more. I'll leave the link to the article below. You can read it and get outraged if you want. This, just bear in mind, this obvious propaganda, this obvious scare tactic by the BBC, and it is blatantly obvious to anybody with two brain cells to rub together, comes in the same day, the same 24-hour period that Gary Lineker, the highest paid TV personality at the BBC, comes out and says, I support a second referendum. Yeah? What the hell do you know, Gary Lineker? What the hell do you know? Why are we putting Gary Lineker up there as the man who knows what will... What an absolute pile of crap. It comes on the back of that in the same 24-hour period, and then today or yesterday at the same time this. Brexit. Barnier rules out key UK customs proposal. Well, what a surprise. What a surprise. Nobody foresaw this. Nobody foresaw that the EU were going to reject the UK's white paper out of hand. Apart from me. and Jamal Thomas, and basically every YouTube commentator there is, an independent journalist there is, basically anybody who watches this channel and channels like it, basically anybody with half a brain. Excuse me. The article says this. The EU's chief negotiator has ruled out allowing the UK to collect customs duty on its behalf, a key UK proposal for post-Brexit trade. Of course it did. Everybody knew that. Everybody knew it was going to reject that because Michael Barnier said the UK wanted to take back control of its money, law and borders, but so did the EU. The EU would not delegate excise's duty collection to a non-member, he said. Both he and the UK Brexit Secretary Dominic Raab said progress had been made, but obstacles remained before reaching a deal in October. Mr Raab said, "We have agreed to meet again in mid-August and then to continue weekly discussions to clear away all the obstacles that line our path to a strong deal in October." Oh God, this is just bullshit. It really is. This is what's happening. It's my opinion of what's happening. The government have dragged their feet on purpose. They have mismanaged this on purpose in order for a no deal to be on the table and a distinct possibility, which it is now. And then they will scare the public into another referendum. And then they will try and scare the public with BS articles like Brexit threat to sandwiches. I cannot believe they've written that. I really can't. They will try and scare the public into making, quote, the right decision next time. I've talked about this. Just look at that. Every single time there's a vote that the EU do not like from an EU member state, they either ignore it or they make them vote again. This is blatantly obvious. Going back to the article, you can see there they've put Laura, I can't say her name, sorry. They've put the BBC political editor's name there, a link to her. What now for the government? You should read it. It's total BS. It really is. It's total BS. Do not be fooled by any of this crap. Any of it. They do not want to leave. They've got no intention of leaving. They've got no intention of leaving. And because of that fact alone, I am going to vote for the hardest Brexit I possibly can. People will say it's going to piss people off on my channel. It's going to piss people off. Oh my God, Gordon, you know, what are you doing? Well, look at the EU. Just look at it. It's a plutocratic, bureaucratic bunch of arseholes that don't represent the people. They're all corrupt. All of them are corrupt. The people who are screaming the most about, no, don't leave, we can't have Brexit, are the people with money who are going to lose their money, who are going to lose their tax loopholes, who are going to lose their access to, you know, their financial dealings. They're the people who are going to be hurt. Yes, it's going to be tough. Yes, the pound will suffer. And yes, I'm sure, you know what, there might be shortages of certain things. But sandwiches isn't one of them, you bunch of muppets. You can grow tomatoes in this country, you know. You don't have to import them from Spain or France or wherever the hell we get them from. You can grow cucumbers, you know. Maybe they'll cost a little bit extra, but maybe, just maybe, the agriculture in this country would grow as a result. You look at the EU. Mark Blythe, brilliant. I've watched hours, and I must have watched 24 hours minimum of Mark Blythe speaking. And Mark Blythe's sort of, you know, his questions and answers, and he's excellent. And you've got to look at the EU, I think, as an organisation that's trying to be the United States of Europe. And the way what they're doing, and Mark Blythe is, I think, perfectly correct when he says this. They're building a system where it's great for efficient exporters in the west of Europe, exporters such as Germany, who have got their Mercedes and their BMWs, exporters maybe, you know, some in France, efficient exporters in France, and then obviously in the UK, although, you know, our export It seems to be in a few years the only thing we're going to be exporting is weapons to Saudi Arabia and Israel. It's going to be great for those countries because they can basically bring in all this cheap labour from Eastern Europe and drive the prices down so they can compete on the global market with the Chinese. That's one way of looking at it. And I think Mark Blythe, when he says that, is absolutely correct. But that's crap for the middle class and it's crap for the working class because wages get driven down, benefits get non-existent, 0-hour contracts become the norm. It's almost as if you know the ruling elite in this country are looking at the disastrous economy of America at the moment and thinking, yeah, that's a good idea, let's go that way. And then you look at the EU do not like any countries that shift towards the socialist end of the scale. I would like to see Jeremy Corbyn as our Prime Minister. I've said this many times. I think he's a decent man. I think he's got some good ideas. Is he going to be able to do them if we're still part of the EU? There are many people who believe that he's going to struggle. I've changed my mind. I voted Remain. It does look like there's going to be another referendum. It does look like I was right all along. And I'm going to vote Leave. And I'm going to try and convince as many other people to do it as well, because there's nothing in it good for us. There's nothing in it good for the working class and the middle class of this country by being in the EU. I can't think of any benefits at all. You know, they say, oh, well, we've got some great laws from the EU. So, make whatever laws we want. Just because the EU imposed a law on us for, I don't know, women's rights or the working hourly week or whatever it is, whatever they've done, doesn't mean we can't do it ourselves. It doesn't mean we wouldn't have done it ourselves anyway. This is just scaremongering by the BBC is what it is. Brexit, threat to sandwiches. Now I'm sure if we do leave the EU, it'll be tough for a few years. But the one thing about the British is they're resilient. Ever since I was a kid, I was massively just fascinated by World War II and the hardships that people went through in World War II. Nobody complained. That's the thing that we kept reading over and over again. Nobody complained. The air sirens went on. People went down into the subways and the tube and started singing. They're not complaining. We'll get through it, however hard it is. We'll get through it. You know why? We are Great Britain. The people in this country are great. The country is great. The clue is in the name. Don't fall for any of this bullshit scare tactics propaganda, because that's what it is. It is clearly obvious what they're doing now. They've pulled the mask off and they don't care by the look of it. Brexit threat to sandwiches. What absolute, utter arse gravy. If you enjoyed this video, please click the bell down there and subscribe so you get a notification of next time I drop a video. Also, I can't do this without your help, so if you can afford it and you enjoy my videos, please support the channel by subscribing to my Patreon. Link is down there. You can do it for as little as $1 a month, and it really does help. If you can't afford it, that's fine. Please share my work and talk to other people about the issues that I bring up. Thanks very much for your support. Until next time, peace and take care.